Do you enjoy thrilling adventures and captivating stories? On our channel, Storytime English, we delve into fascinating narratives, starting with The Hobbit. Subscribe now to catch every chapter of this epic journey. Follow Bilbo Baggins' adventures and discover how learning English can be both fun and engaging. Let's go. Chapter 1. An unexpected party. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green, with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened onto a tube-shaped hall like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel without smoke, with paneled walls, and floors tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs, and lots of wood and lots of hooks for hats and coats. The hobbit liked visitors. The tunnel wound on and on, going fairly but not quite, straight into the side of the hill, as all the people for many miles around called it, and many little round doors open out of it, first on one side and then on another, no going upstairs for the hobbit. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellars, pantries, lots of these. Wardrobes, he had whole rooms devoted to clothes. Kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor, and indeed on the same passage. The best rooms were all on the left-hand side going in, for these were the only ones to have windows, deep-set, round windows looking over his garden and meadows beyond, sloping down to the river. This hobbit was a very well-to-do hobbit, and his name was Baggins. The Bagginses had lived in the neighborhood of the hill for time out of mind, and people considered them very respectable, not only because most of them were rich, but also because they never had any adventures or did anything unexpected. You could tell what a Baggins would say on any question without the bother of asking him. This is the story of how a Baggins had an adventure, and found himself doing and saying things altogether unexpected. He may have lost the neighbors' respect, but he gained, well, you will see whether he gained anything in the end. The mother of this hobbit of Bilbo Baggins, that is, was the famous Belladonna Took, one of the three remarkable daughters of the old Took, head of the hobbits, who lived across the water, the small river that ran at the foot of the hill. It was often said in other families that long ago one of the Took ancestors must have taken a fairy wife. That was, of course, absurd. But certainly there was still something not entirely hobbit-like about them, and once in a while members of the Took clan would go and have adventures. They discreetly disappeared, and the family hushed it up, but the fact remained that the Tooks were not as respectable as the Bagginses, though they were undoubtedly richer. Not that Belladonna Took ever had any adventures. After she became Mrs. Bungo Baggins, Bungo, Bilbo's father, built the most luxurious hobbit hole for her, and partly with her money that was to be found either under the hill or over the hill or across the water, and there they remained to the end of their days. Still, it is probable that Bilbo, her only son, although he looked and behaved exactly like a second edition of his solid and comfortable father. Got something a bit queer in his makeup from the took sigh, something that only waited for a chance to come out. The opportunity did not appear until Bilbo was an adult, around 50 years old, living in the beautiful Hobbit, hole built by his father, which I just described to you. In fact, not until he was fully settled in life, at least seemingly. By a curious chance, on a distant morning, in the quietude of the world when there was less noise and more green, and when hobbits were still numerous and prosperous, and Bilbo Baggins was standing at his door after breakfast, smoking a huge wooden pipe that reached almost to his woolly toes. Carefully brushed, Gandalf appeared. Gandalf, if you had heard only a quarter of what I have heard about him, and I have only heard a little of all there is to hear, you would be prepared for any kind of surprising story. Stories and adventures sprang up everywhere he went, in the most extraordinary manner. He had not passed by that path under the hill for a long time. In fact, he had not been there since his friend, old Took, had died, and the hobbits had almost forgotten his appearance. He had been traveling beyond the hill and across the water, tending to his own affairs, since they were all hobbit boys and girls, all that Bilbo, unsuspecting, so that morning, was an old man with a staff. He wore a tall, pointed blue hat, a long gray cloak, a silver scarf over which his long white beard fell below his waist, and immense black boots. "Good morning," said Bilbo sincerely. The sun was shining, and the grass was very green. But Gandalf gave him a look from under his long and thick eyebrows, which protruded from the shadow of his hat's brim. "What do you mean by that?" he asked. "Are you wishing me a good morning, or are you saying the day is good regardless of whether I want it or not? Or are you saying you feel good this day, or that this is a day to be well?" "All of that at once," said Bilbo. "It's a very pleasant morning for smoking a pipe outdoors. Besides, if you have a pipe with you, sit down and have a bit of my weed. There's no hurry. We have the whole day ahead of us." And then Bilbo sat in a chair at his door, crossed his legs, and blew a beautiful gray smoke ring that rose in the air without dissolving and floated over the hill. "Very nice," said Gandalf, "but I have no time to blow smoke rings this morning. I'm looking for someone to join an adventure I'm organizing, and it's very difficult to find someone." "I think so. Around here we're simple folk and contented, and I don't like adventures. They're unpleasant and uncomfortable. They make you late for dinner. I can't imagine what people see in them," said our Mr. Baggins, putting a thumb behind his suspenders and blowing another even larger smoke ring. Then he picked up his morning mail and began to read it, pretending not to pay any more attention to the old man. He had decided he wasn't the type he liked and wanted him to leave, but the old man didn't move. He stood there, leaning on his staff, watching the hobbit, without saying anything, until Bilbo felt somewhat embarrassed and even a little annoyed. "Good morning," he finally said. "We don't want adventures around here, thank you. You could try beyond the hill, or across the water." By that he meant the conversation was over. "Ye use good morning for a lot of things," said Gandalf. "Now you mean you want to get rid of me, Anne. That the day won't be good until I leave. No way, dear sir. Let me see, I think I don't know your name." Continues in the next episode. See you later.